Hello there, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. I'm your host, Ted Moreno, certified clinical hypnotherapist and high performance coach. And using the tool of hypnosis, I help people to live lives that are more intentional, more fulfilling, less stressed, less anxious, and less overwhelmed. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I'll tell you how to get in touch with me at the end of today's podcast. For now, let's get into today's show. You may notice that I'm holding a guitar. That's because today I want to talk about a song. Hello? Is there anybody in there? Now, if you know anything about rock music and you grew up in the era that I grew up in, then you probably recognize the lyrics to that song. But first, a little backstory. Few months ago, maybe about a month ago, I got together with my good friend Adam to play some guitar. Now, I've been playing guitar for a while, and I can sit down and probably entertain you with some songs from my era for an hour or so. But Adam, my buddy Adam, is on a whole nother level. He's an awesome lead guitarist. And if you go to the show notes to this podcast at tedmoreno.com/blog, I have a link where you can actually go to his YouTube channel and watch him do his stuff. Anyway, we got together and we were playing some songs and we decided to work on a particular song by Pink Floyd called Comfortably Numb. Now, after playing this song for some time, we worked up a really good rendition of it, and it was very, very fun. But I became very interested in doing a deeper dive into this song, so I started to explore its history as well as its lyrics. Now, the following information is from Wikipedia. In 2021, the song Comfortably Numb was ranked number 179 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. The guitar solo is considered one of the greatest guitar solos of all time and is considered the crowning achievement of the guitarist David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, considered the crowning achievement of his career, and is considered really, like I said, one of the best guitar solos of all time. Uh, it's from the 1979 album called The Wall, which is a concept album about an embittered and alienated rock star named Pink. In Comfortably Numb, Pink is medicated by a doctor so he can perform a rock show. So the lyricist and member of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, who's also the vocalist, these lyrics were inspired by his experience of being injected with tranquilizers for stomach cramps during one of his performances in 1977 during one of Pink Floyd's tour. Again, on Wikipedia, author Mike McCormick writes that the song is perhaps the apex of rock music as an art form. No other song cuts deeper, says so much about the human condition, or hits such moments of beauty and horror. Again, from Wikipedia, and of course, the line from the song that speaks to this beauty and horror and human condition is the line, I have become comfortably numb. So that's what I want to talk about today. I begin to think about what this song says about the human condition. Uh, and I realize that what it says is that we as human beings have a desire to numb out, to not feel, to hide out from life. And there's so many ways today that we can do this. We can do it by immersing ourselves and numbing ourselves with social media, by sitting on the sofa and just binging the latest Netflix or, you know, the latest streaming show. We could do it, of course, through, those old standbys, drugs and alcohol. Many times the news becomes a way of numbing ourselves. We become numb to all the news stories. Just another way to hide out, another way to medicate ourselves from life. And I think the reason that we have a tendency to do that is because of what I referred to in my previous podcast as an epidemic of overwhelm, particularly today. 2025. So much going on, so many changes, particularly in this month. We're at the end of May, at the beginning of June 2025. I have two kids graduating, one from college and transferring, one from high school. There's a whole lot going on. There's a lot of things to think about, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And I'm really no different from anybody else. I want to numb out by watching the latest show. I want to numb out by coming home, fixing myself a mixed drink. I want to numb out by doom scrolling on social media. So I think we all have that, that tendency, that desire. And the truth is that for many people with mental health conditions, that might be the way forward, right? The way to make it through the day is to have some kind of prescribed medication or even a little bit of recreational medication. I'm not against that. But each person needs to decide for themselves what they need to move forward, as opposed to the need to stay safe and comfortable and not move forward. I love that quote. It's by John Shedd from 1928 that says, "A ship in a harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." And I think as the ship of our lives, we want our ships out there, engaged with life, exploring, discovering new ways of being, continuing to grow and become better navigators, if you will. Yet, I think we have a tendency, and it's part of our DNA to be safe, be comfortable, and at times perhaps to numb ourselves in the various many ways that I just talked about. However, you may know what that leads to: stagnation, stuckness, not moving forward. It's so easy to get to that place of just consistently numbing out. And then one day we turn around and we say, what's the point of life? Like, why am I here? All I do is avoid the challenges of my life. Now, I'm talking a little bit extreme here, and I'm not talking to anybody in particular, but we all know that feeling. Let me tell you a little story. A friend of mine purchased a house in a gated community not too far from here, and he was working on his house, and he would notice a couple times a week a guy would drive by in a golf cart, and on the golf cart he had a ladder, and he would stop the golf cart, he'd pull out the ladder, and he'd climb up and he'd change the light bulbs of the cute little street lights, right? So they weren't the really tall street lights. They were kind of vintage looking street lights, not too tall, something that you could reach with a ladder. And that's what this guy did. He would climb up, he would change the bulbs, he would clean out the spider webs and the birds' nests. And so one day, my friend approached him and said, "Hey, I noticed that every couple of uh, days you come by and you do this. Are you employed by the housing, by the gated community?" And the man said, "No." He said, "Actually, I live here. I'm a resident here." He said, "However, they pay me a small amount of money to make sure that all the street lights are functioning properly." He said, "I don't really need the money, but when I moved in here, I noticed that many people who moved in and retired started playing golf, drinking, and in 2 years, they were dead." He said, "I didn't want to be like that. So I decided I needed a mission, I needed a purpose, I needed to get out of my comfort zone. So my mission and my purpose is to keep the lights on. And that's what I do." Think about that for a second. He didn't want to just go into that medicated, hiding out feeling of playing golf and drinking. Not that there's anything wrong with retiring or playing golf, but he saw a pattern and he didn't want to be a part of that pattern. So the idea is to live a fulfilling life. We must be engaged with life, both the good stuff and the bad stuff. We want to constitute ourselves as being up for the challenge of living and not have numbing out as our go-to strategy. And it's easier said than done. Now, we all need rest and relaxation, no doubt about it. We all need time to chill, to relax, to take a vacation, to step back from the challenges of life. However, we want to make sure that we're not doing that for avoidance. What we need to do is we need to feel that discomfort. We need to get out of our heads and into our body and feel the resistance to doing the things that are hard or facing the situations that are challenging. We need to learn to manage our stress and overwhelm so we can get better at it and gain more capacity. So I'm not talking about relaxation, not talking about chilling out, not talking about an occasional celebratory drink with friends or family. I'm talking about the avoidance, which we all do, but we want to be conscious of when we're doing that and be aware of it. And procrastination, that's a good sign that we're trying to avoid something. And we all do that. Let's be very clear about that. We all avoid, we all procrastinate. Nobody wants to face hard times or difficult challenges. Nobody wants to walk into areas of uncertainty. Yet, that's how we grow. That's how we get better. And I don't know about you, but there's no point in my life where I want to say, I'm done growing. I'm done trying. Now I'm just going to coast. But it's so easy to do, especially when you get a little bit older. But Helen Keller said life is either an exciting adventure or it's boring. Brene Brown said, numb the dark and you numb the light. So how do we do that, right? How do we get out of the need or the desire to be numb and to have that be our go-to strategy? Well, I can tell you what I do, what I try to do consistently. I try to get up early, so I have some quiet time before the day starts. Try to do at least 10 minutes of meditation every day. I do some stretching to get into my body. I try to write some things that I'm grateful for. I create an intention for the day. I get out of the house and get outside and allow green trees and blue skies and wind and sun to come into my environment, my mental environment. And that really allows me to start the day very centered and very grounded. And of course, I'm always telling myself affirmations such as I'm up for this, I've got this, I'm courageous, I have strength, I have resilience, right? And so that's how I keep myself from just immediately waking up and going and medicating and numbing myself out on my phone or whatever it is that, is so available for us. So what we need to do is we need to feel the discomfort of life sometimes and not run from it. Take a break, take a siesta, chill out, but keep moving forward. There's another quote. Not really sure who said it, but it goes something like, when we numb ourselves to the negative emotions that we feel, we numb ourselves to the positive emotions as well. So life is about light and dark, and we must embrace both in order to have a life that is intentional and a life that is fulfilling. We need to have the belief in ourselves that we're up to the challenges of life. I can't stress how important this belief is. So many of us need to know what's going to happen. We want to have that sense of certainty. And if we don't have it, we're anxious and afraid. And this is where trust and faith comes in, that we have the ability to constitute ourselves as being courageous, being intentional, and being somebody who can continue to move forward even though we're scared, even though we're anxious, even though we're overwhelmed. So keep that in mind. I talk a lot about overwhelm in my podcast, and you'll know you're in overwhelm when you're doom scrolling, when you're reaching for that next drink, when you're sitting in front of the television telling yourself, I really need to turn this off and get busy, and rest and relax when you need to, but above all, keep moving forward. If you need help moving forward, if you feel you're overwhelmed, and if you know deep within you that you are having the tendency to numb yourself consistently to the point where you're just not getting anything done, give me a call. You can go to tedmoreno.com/contact, get in touch with me, and I will get back to you within 2 days to talk about what's going on. And if you're ready, set up your first appointment. So thank you very much for tuning in to my podcast today. Take good care of yourself. And by all means, go to the show notes, tedmoreno.com/podcast. Check out the links that I have in the transcript to this podcast. Take good care. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye now.